Welcome everyone. My name is Thomas Steininger. I welcome you again to Radio Wolf, our webcast for consciousness and culture. And my partner Elizabeth is with me. And we would like to talk with you today about a program that Elizabeth developed for beginning of December, One World Bearing Witness. Elizabeth, what are we planning?
Well, first let me say it's great to be here with you, Thomas, on your webcast. It's not often that we engage in this format, and it's great to be here with everyone. So, what's One World Bearing Witness? That's your question. One World Bearing Witness is I can talk about it. It's a 24-hour global online live vigil ritual that takes place on December 4th to 5th. And that gives you some facts. But what it actually is it's our attempt in a very small way, but not unmeaningful, to create a field of practice, a field of meditation practice, of shamanic practice, of practice related to all of the major religions on the face of the earth, to bring them together in practice to create a field of unity, a field of diversity and unity. And there's so many ways that human beings have reached for spirit, have opened themselves to the mystery of life on this planet. And so often we think about the conflict between religions or traditions, but they each are an expression of the human striving for spirit, the human acknowledgement and gratitude towards spirit. And what we're trying to do is to collect the facets of the jewel of spirit as it manifests, as it manifests in different regions, different places, out of different life circumstances of human beings, to create a wholeness out of it. Because this is the treasure that we have on this planet, is the human creativity, human expression of that which is most meaningful.
And you and the team you're working with, you really brought people from all around the globe, spiritual leaders, teachers, people who really hold something in spirit in different parts of the world together, to do this together. And this practice, One World Bearing Witness, we are doing this since several years. How many years have we been doing this?
I think 6, something like that.
It is also something that is, of course, only possible because of the internet. Mm-hmm. And what we discovered here together is that there's something new possible, which is a global practice in a global practice field. And I know that you're also inspired by just this new capacity that we can do this together, and how we again and again every year are deeply inspired what it creates, what it creates in us and between us, and also in our relationship to the world. The people who are in different ways, in different cultures, with different backgrounds, committed to spirit, and devote time together for a global practice. This is something that I think we're also discovering as a species new, that we can practice on a global scale.
Yeah, and practicing on a global scale and inviting in the different, as I say, the different facets of the jewel, it allows a deeper kind of integration. It allows, and I think this is what we're discovering, is that in the experience of going through this ritual and participating, even for an hour, 2 hours, or making it a mini retreat for oneself, that the result is that something opens in our consciousness. that there is an impact on our consciousness where we know, where we recognize at a deep level our diversity and unity, or unity and diversity, the fact that there is something that connects us in a very subtle and profound way. And that part of why I often call this a sacred activism is that it creates an imprint on the consciousness of those who participate, but that is an imprint in human consciousness of our togetherness, of our non-separation. And at this time, given the degree of fragmentation, polarization, competition that we're seeing, I mean, the way that COVID is breaking down between the North and the South, the breakdown of Western civil society. I mean, all of these things speak to separation, and this practice gives one a felt sense and an experiential sense of the reality that at a very deep level that we are not separate.
You were highlighting different facets, which I think are all very important also as they come together. First, that the people we bring in, the people who speak there and do the practice, but also everyone who joins in from around the globe, because there will be hundreds of people joining around the globe, if not 1,000 people around the globe who join this with our differences. And we are in a global world where we not only have to live with our differences, we also need to appreciate our differences. And we need to appreciate that we have very different cultures, very different contexts, very different life stories. And with life stories, I not only mean personal life stories, but our cultural life stories that we somehow need to bring together. So there is a diversity that we need to celebrate and honor, but there is also a unity that can come out of this diversity by holding this, weaving this together. And you were highlighting, and I think everybody would agree with you, we are living in a particular fragile moment of our human history where division is maybe more prevalent than we have experienced in our lifetimes, and where people are rightfully scared where we will go in this. And to do this together is also kind, in that sense, a form of spiritual activism, that we stand together in our differences to also practice both our diversity and our unity, and that our desire to also have a global human society with the depth of a spiritual grounding.
I think that is the potential for that is what one glimpses in participating in One World Bearing Witness, that this is possible, and that actually that in a deeper way it is so that we are not separate, and I think the reality of that, the effect that we have on each other on this planet, the effect that we have on the planet, on Earth itself, is something that we need to be more deeply conscious of, but also Earth as a living being, as a living biosphere that is that is very much affected by us. So to have this experience of our diversity but held in a unity is, as you were saying, is what allows us to see that a different kind of relatedness could exist on this planet, or could become conscious on this planet. And I think that's we're trying to take a little step in that direction. And the way things that are evolutionary or transformationally oriented work is, as I'm sure everyone knows, you work at it. You put in effort, and then all of a sudden something happens, and you don't know when that point is. And there are a lot of efforts to make us more deeply aware of the unity that exists below the surfaces of difference and even polarized differences. And I wanted to point out that one of the unique things about this event is that there's so much spiritual entertainment, and spiritual information that is out there on the internet. We have a rhythm in this event where one of the spiritual leaders will offer a ritual or prayer or guided meditation or song or some celebration of the diversity and creativity of life, which is our theme this year. And then it's followed by an hour or 45 minutes of meditation. And we do that in order that we create space in our consciousness together as a global audience or participation. We're participating, we're not simply an audience. That in the participants, amongst the participants, that what has been brought can be taken in deeply and integrated in the field of consciousness that we share. And it's that makes, I think, what we're doing different, because it's not about information. It's not about seeing different traditions or different spiritual practices. It's about participating in them and then really integrating them in the consciousness field itself.
So as you started it already a little bit, how can one envision what we try to do this? I mean, we talk a 24-hour period. We talk about a global ritual. Just to give a sense, how can we practice together in this 24-hour period? How did you prepare this? How did your team prepare this? What kind of cycles do we go through? Who do we see? What do we do? How should this period look like that it really becomes something that one can say, wow, we practice together?
I think it has to do with our intention in coming together first, the intention of all the participants to be part of a global field of practice, to be part of an experiment that is trying to open human consciousness to the global diversity and its unity, and that we need all of these different forms of spirituality, of consciousness to create what is possible on this planet. So if my intention is towards that, that creates something powerful. What we will do is we will start with an offering by Grandfather Juan Bidi Wakita, who will do his morning prayers for us with us. He is a chief in the Dakota, amongst the Dakota people in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And he has offered, it will be sunrise for him when we begin. And he has offered to share his morning prayers with us. He does them at dawn every morning. And so we will start with that. We will start with his blessings for the day out of his own spiritual practice. And we will be with him in that. And again, how we are with him is very important. Are we watching him as like an interesting, beautiful thing to watch? Or are we sharing in his opening the day, sharing in his spiritual practice? Other leaders spiritual leaders will take us through a guided meditation. Rabbi Yoel Glick will be inviting us to light candles because it's the last day of Hanukkah. We will have song and all forms of different drumming, guided meditation by a Japanese monk who will chant sutras while his partner in these kinds of things plays the cello, and another Thai Buddhist nun who will lead us in a guided meditation, and we will also hear from novice nuns who will chant, and then have another guided meditation by another nun at the Thai monastery. So these are all very rich, beautiful ceremonies, rituals, invitations to prayer, invitations to be touched in the place that the spiritual leader is offering from. And that's part of what I think is this transmission that occurs beyond the words, beyond the particular activity that the spiritual leader is offering. The place that it comes from, the desire to have it met by us who are participating is part of the way that we engage in this practice together.
Who will be with us and who they are and what they do and also the schedule. We all find it also on the website.
Yes.
You maybe also want to say the URL of the website. I mean, people also will find it on the information for this radio and on our radio website, but just for people to know.
Well, it's One World in Dialogue as one word. One World in Dialogue. Dialogue spelled DIALOGUE.com /OWBW, One World Bearing Witness. So it's oneworldindialogue.com OWBW.
And you'll find the information also on our website and on the email that maybe invited you to this radio. And what I really appreciate by doing this is we talk a lot, and I think many others, about global consciousness. And we do this since many years. Since I grew up, we talk about developing a global consciousness. But usually what we mean with a global consciousness is quite a theoretical global consciousness, just knowing about the world, knowing what's going on in China, knowing what's going on with the global South, knowing all that. And that's, I think, an important part to be a global citizen, to know about the world. It's really important. But what practices like this allow us to do, and I would love to hear what your thoughts about this are, is a different form of global consciousness. Because we come together and it makes a very powerful direct impact to practice with an elder, Lakota, who is doing his morning practice somewhere in Canada right now at the dawn of his day with all of us, and to practice together with a Buddhist spiritual practitioner, teacher from Japan, doing his practice and his devotion to the sacred from his background of Japanese culture, and experience in the human relationship online between us, how we are connected, how our cultures are different but connected, and how we are also on this globe, on this living wall. Because there's something very particular also when we connect in this way with the internet, so technical. Funny enough, my awareness, and I'm sure that's true for many, of this earth becomes very vivid. It's a very concrete relationship to the globe that we're living on. So global consciousness transforms from something that is heavy in my mind to something that is an experience of our togetherness on this earth right now together in the difference and unity of our cultures.
Yeah, I think you were starting by speaking about, in some ways, a world-centric consciousness, a consciousness of, that one is aware of events that are happening, the fact of the world, the fact that something that actually is happening in India right now will have an effect on the rest of the world also. That kind of interconnection, and but you're right. It's kind of knowledge. It's information. It's not a lived reality for most of us. And there's also, I was thinking, as when you started to talk about global consciousness, I thought you might go in this direction. There's the kind of that we will all just miraculously form one global awareness, and that somehow this will happen. And there are a lot of different spiritual corners of the world that are hoping for that, and I that would be amazing. But what this is actually something different from either of those, as you were pointing out. What this is it gives one a sense of human connection, and not just human connection like I know you and your family, or I know you and your life history or your story, but a connection in the part of us that holds our longing for wholeness. That part of ourselves that longs for wholeness is met by these spiritual leaders, that they bring their offering, what they have learned through their tradition, their lineage. They bring that to us as an offering that is a recognition in some way of the whole that we are each a part of. They each have different ways of expressing or awakening to or realizing this, but then that meets us in the place where we each long for wholeness, and that felt connection gives us a sense of being on earth in a very different way. It gives us a sense of the vastness of earth, and also the unity of the bio-spiritual sphere that we're living on. I remember after one World Bearing Witness, someone said, that later they read something in the newspaper about, I think it was the Philippines, and we had a Philippine spiritual teacher speaking, and it was like it felt like it was happening to a friend of mine. I realized that something was happening in that part of the world, and it was like people I care about, I am connected to, are living there. And it was through this 24-hour experience, or whatever part of it that she had taken part in. But it's that human connection, and that opens us to a compassionate response to what is happening on this earth with people who we perceive often as very different from ourselves.
We do this global practice, which, by the way, happens on the 4th and 5th of December.
Yeah.
Also in honor of a friend of ours who just died, Terry Patton, who wrote a book, The New Republic of the Heart, that you also worked with him on this book. And Terry was someone who inspired both of us, also in his own form of spiritual activism, and he died recently of cancer, and in fact he taught until the very end his relationship to spiritual activism, the global situation that we're in, particularly also the climate crisis, the mortality of you. He taught about mortality, of our collective mortality, why he was aware that he didn't have to live much longer. This Republic of the Heart that he was addressing in this book is very much also what we are addressing in this practice. Because in the terminology, Republic of the Heart, there's a coming together of something. Our citizenship, the term Republic holds something. It really speaks to us as citizens. And in that sense, are citizens that really have to act politically, rationally, and responsibly in our global political affairs, but a Republic of the Heart. It's not just something that we relate with our rationality, our mind with, it's our heart connection that will change this world. So in that sense, I see this practice also in honor and also in memory of what Terry kind of tried to establish and also started to establish with his community, Republic of the Heart, to create friendships around the globe that are able to hold our different religious, cultural, spiritual backgrounds in a way that allows us to really be there for our global civilization and also an Earth who is in dire need for this different human response.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. This is a call to citizenship of the world and of the earth, and to be an earth citizen means something that is about the heart rather than a technical or factual response. I think often spirituality is seen as a way of bypassing the realities that we're facing right now, as a way of skipping over the fact of climate change and the impact of human life, so many human beings on this planet. And this is an effort to establish a connection amongst all the different, or not all of them, there are thousands, but different ways of honoring life on this earth, to experience how they engage with the creativity of life in honor of earth. How do all these ways that we have of celebrating, of recognizing the sacredness of life itself, how can we experience that as a living reality? And this practice, this day of practice, this 24 hours of practice, gives one that actual touchstone in one's experience that is a deep motivation for change, and for a sense of community amongst all of these different places, regions on this planet. And it reminds me of something that I heard yesterday, that the global problems that we have are going to be solved at the local level. And I think that's a very compelling thought. And when you see the profound ways that our our different spiritual lineages on this planet, honor and celebrate life, you get a sense of, if this were the center of every community, this felt connection with life, the sacredness of life, and the endless creativity of life. If that were the center of our relationship with each other and the planet that we're standing on, that something powerful could happen.
Let me say something that maybe sounds a little tacky and new agey. But it's just true, at least in my experience, having done this practice for several years, there's something which I don't find many practices where I can experience that. And that is a global heart. Mm-hmm. There's something when you do this, and of course, we do this not just for a couple of hours, but we usually stay the 24 hours for that. By the way, everyone who wants to join is fine to just join for 1 hour or 2 hours.
Right.
If you want to come for the 24 hours, that's great, but that's not you don't have to do that. But doing this together with all these people who are literally around this globe, something shows up in my experience, in my heartfelt experience, that I cannot describe in a different way than a global heart. Mm. There's a heart relationship that is not just my heart, it's not me and my friends, it's a heart relationship with our global reality, including our global society, our global cultures, and nature, Earth, this global ball that we are in. There's something where the expression a global heart becomes and became very real for me. And just for that, I'm grateful for this practice, because it establishes a relationship to our global reality that's, as you said before, is beyond just a cognition, just information. It's a heartfelt experience and relationship to the global reality that we're all participating in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that is what every unique, different thread of spirit on this planet is about connecting us to the heart of life, to the heart of that which is most sacred. And this practice brings to oneself a lived experience, an actual opening of the connectedness of all of these in one global heart. And it's hard to say, what does that mean? But that is the experience, that there is something that in our longing for wholeness, in our recognition of life, that we all as human beings share. And it's that which we share at the heart level that makes all the different ideologies, all the different all the differences kind of take a back seat, and one realizes that they can actually be a foundation for a deeper integration on this planet. Mm-hmm. And actually, I wanted to say something. It's interesting. It's all of us who are concerned about life on Earth and the future of complex life on Earth, we implicitly or explicitly have a theory of change. How is it that this is going to change? Or one doesn't, and one feels increasingly just grief and devastation, because what are we going to do? Things are changing very rapidly. I don't need to list all of what's happening on this planet. But probably everything that's happening in terms of attempts to respond to the circumstances that we're in are needed. And I would say, and this is needed too. Mm-hmm. This is part of laying the foundation for a different way of relating to each other as human beings, and thereby of relating to the life that is on this planet in a different way. And that, I often think, if we met each other from a sense of we share one heart, as we were saying before, we are part of the life pulse on this planet. And that's how I see you. That's how I see every being on this planet. If we can make a step in that direction, how we make decisions would be very different as a species.
Let me pick that up, this how we make decisions as a species. Because that's, again, also a political question, not only, but also a political question. Because there's also one other aspect to this practice, and that's very much related to the work that the two of us are sharing, which is the core of what we're doing, emergent dialogue, this kind of dialogical practice. That what we try and attempt to do here, we also understand as a spiritual practice of the open society. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, also particularly this one form of doing it, of course, we do emergent dialogue in many different forms, but this one form of doing it as a global online ritual, which is also, as I understand, an online global dialogue, is in itself a spiritual practice of this open society that we want to be. And that we want to connect also on the spiritual level and be able to hold all the differences that we're talking about, but be able to come to decisions that we need to make together. Because if something is obvious and clear with the climate crisis and everything else that we're in right now, we need shared decisions, shared action. We may all be different, and we are, and we have to honor our differences, but we have to come together in shared decisions. So there's something where if we really want to establish our hopefully open global society in a deep spiritual sense, we have to practice our togetherness, our diversity, our depth, our relatedness to each other, our relatedness to the earth, and also, by the way, our relatedness to the cosmos as a whole, and be able to decide where we want to go out of this. And for that, we also need rituals, practices that establish this spirit, because that allows us to do what we need to do from a certain spirit. In that sense, a spiritual practice like this is a deeply political act.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah, because if we're talking about an open society, that requires an openness in us. And that openness in us is both an open-heartedness, open-mindedness, and an openness to depth in its different expressions. That we won't have an open society if we are closed or shut off from the ways that different people on this planet follow their longing for wholeness.
And I think, and that's what I learned by doing this for several years now, we also need global rituals.
Mm.
We need concrete, heartfelt ways of coming together that unite us on this direct human level so that we can feel each other. That's kind of also the strange thing.
Yeah.
You're together, you don't see, of course, in some way you see each other on screen, but in some way you don't. But you can feel each other on a global scale, which is kind of a very interesting experience. So what does it mean? There's someone in Australia, there's someone in Canada, there's someone in the Philippines, and you can feel each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you can feel the earth that is holding us, and you can feel the spirit that we are together in. But to practice this as a ritual establishes and cultivates our humanness in a certain way that maybe this earth needs.
Yeah, I would agree. And I am thinking as you're speaking of, for example, May Marta from Brazil, who will be translated from Portuguese in One World Bearing Witness, or Etincelle from Gabon, and how in speaking to them about taking part in this ritual, that they very much understand the importance of ritual and their desire to bring this to the world, to bring this out from their locality, and to be able to meet others and in a communicative action, which I think you mentioned, you said to me is what ritual, a definition of ritual, that they want to communicate their love for this earth, their love for the creative power of life, and their love for human creativity. They want to give that to us. And that together, all over the world, these kinds of expressions brought together creates a new kind of ritual that is a global ritual. And that's fundamentally what we're doing with One World Bearing Witness.
And of course, we are doing this on Radio Wolf right now also because we want to motivate everyone who is listening to this, everyone who is watching this, to participate. So yes. This is a heartfelt invitation to participate. Do you want to tell us, as we're coming also to the end, how we can participate?
You need to register and go to the website that will be listed below this the information for the webcast, and I mean and look at your own schedule, and there's a schedule online that will sync with your location so that you can see what offerings are happening at times that are convenient for you, and you can also look and see when different speakers are different. It's like hard to know what to call these spiritual leaders when they're making their offerings. So you can create your own schedule of participation, and really completing one full cycle, a ceremony plus a meditation period, which is 2 hours total, is even if that's all that you can do, I'm saying all in quotes, that is an enormous gift to all of us.
I really invite all of you. Would be great to see you again on the 4th and 5th of December. Elizabeth, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for organizing us. I'm very much looking forward to host this together with you in the beginning of December.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone.